Good morning, everybody. Hi, I'm Mrs. Fournier. I'm the librarian at Forest North Elementary.
Hi, everybody. This is Jamie Wright, and I am the librarian at Jolie Johnson Elementary.
It's so good to see you, Miss Wright. How are you today?
I'm great. It's great to be with you again for our second episode of Book Buzz.
Woo, book buzz. Me too. I'm excited. Well, let's get started. Let's share some books.
Absolutely.
Okay, so anybody out there watching, we do want to remind you, all of these books that we're talking about are available at both of our schools, so feel free to get your hands on them soon. The first one that I wanted to show you today, Miss Wright, have you seen this one? I love this one. It's called Shaking Things Up. This one's written by Susan Hood, and it's interesting to me. It's a collective biography. So it's a story about 14 young women's lives. And I think it's cool that it's about kids and teenagers. And these are about 14 young women who change things up in the world to make them better. So on the front cover, of course, we've got an iconic hero, Ruby Bridges. This was illustrated by Oge Mora. And the neat thing about this book is each page is a different one. So like here's the page about Frida Kahlo. It's got beautiful illustrations. Each one's got a different illustrator. And I love doing this. Sometimes you can't do this with a library book, but this one is my own copy. You can take off the dust jacket and see what's underneath. And sometimes they're different. And these are all the different illustrations throughout the book.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
Yeah. So it's also got some great stories about Malala is in here, which is another one that I love to read about. It's got Maya Lin, Mae Jemison, Nellie Bly, a lot of really interesting ones. Another one I love is Molly Williams. I'd never heard about her before. She was the first female firefighter in the United States. And then after she was, still wasn't another female firefighter in New York for over 100 years after that. But she was the first one.
Wow. Wow. Talk about trailblazers.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. It's perfect for your school. Yeah. So this is Shaking Things Up.
And what grade level do you think this would be a good fit for?
Well, I think it kind of depends. I think for a read aloud in one sitting, it might be a lot. So it might be a good one to like break up and maybe do one story a day. I know that I just recorded this for first grade. They're working for this for social studies. So like, here's the story about Buddha Dupré. And you can like read this one, enjoy it for 5 minutes, and then the next day go back and do another story. Maybe older grades could chunk it and do a few more at a sitting.
That looks like an amazing book. I wanted to take this opportunity to show everybody, in case you didn't know, about how you can add to your to-read list if you're seeing some books and you think, oh my goodness, this is a great book, and I really want to make sure that I have that on my list. So if you look in our Jolie Johnson catalog or your Forest North catalog, you have to be logged into the catalog to do this. But we have a feature where you can create your list. So if you click this little plus button right here, we call it to read or to be read, and you just click create right here. Now I have that to read list. So that book that Ms. Fournier was just showing us, Shaking Things Up, I can search for it in my search box. And here it is. So once I get into this book, if I choose select an action, I could place it on hold right away if I want to read it immediately and request it. But if I already have some things on hold, I might want to add it to my list. And see right here, it's successfully added. And let's go right back up to my list and find that on that. I already have created a bunch of to-read lists, but let's go ahead and just look. This automatically populated to my default list instead of down here. But let's look and see where it landed.
This is so great. I've used this before, and I love it because that way later, if you want to put it on hold, you don't have to search it up again. It's right there. You already have it saved.
Absolutely. And sometimes I'm in the mood to read different things for different reasons. So
right.
See, here it is. It's on my list. So if I feel like reading a nonfiction book or a biography, depending on what it is I'm in the mood to read. And this is great because it's immediately accessible to your library catalog. So it's in your library and you can get it. You could also keep your to-read list, though, on a piece of paper or in a special decorated journal or something like that. So there are lots of ways to keep a plan for your reading.
I love that. That's a great idea. Well, give me one so I can put one on my list, Miss Wright.
All right, I'm so ready to share with you. This one is called The Festival of Colors, and it was written by a mother and son team. This is Sharishta Segal and Kabir Segal. And I love this. It talks about the Festival of Holi, and the children in the book are using plants to create different colors of flowers. So they different colors for the festival. So they've got hibiscus flowers to make red, and they gather orchids to make purple. And it's a wonderful study for young children with all the different colors. But it also might inspire you to get out there and do some mixing of colors as a science experiment or an art project. And then it just shows how all the people come together in a celebration and how all those colors, I love the
Wow.
So I feel like this is definitely a story that our youngest readers could appreciate, but I really love it too, just because it's so beautiful. So maybe everybody would like it that way too.
Yeah, I love that art. That is a stunning book. Cool. All right, nice. Okay, well, I have another one that I want to show you. This one is called Hector the Collector. It's a nice book. You know, we're getting some cooler temperatures outside, starting to turn into fall. So I always like to go back to Hector for this one. You can see down here, Hector likes to collect acorns. It kind of just starts one day, then he starts finding some others that look a little different. And everything's going great with his collection. Here, I love the end papers even have his collection.
Aww, that's so
Until
sweet.
one day, his teacher decides to check on everybody's desks. And she notices that his desk is full of acorns. Look at this lovely giraffe teacher he has. So some of the kids in his class are immediately like, why don't you have pens and paper in there? And he gets really embarrassed. And his teacher says that this is a collection. Everything is different in there, and then everything's the same, and they're all beautiful. And I think it's really cool that Hector has this acorn collection in his desk. So after that, all the kids start to think a little bit differently about it. And it's kind of neat. They start talking about different sort of collections you can have. Like Alex collects pennies, or this one, I think this is great. Andre collects fortunes from fortune cookies.
That's a great collection.
I know, I love that collection. I wish I had been doing that this whole time. And in the back, they talk about kind of the greatest collections of all are the ones that belong to everybody, which are museums and libraries. So, you know, I love that, right? It's talking about our favorite things, libraries. So in the back, there's some information about that. So it's a quick read, but I think it can really appeal to a lot of different grade levels, especially I know in math these days, we do a lot of counting collections. So this is kind of a great jumping off for that point for a math lesson or for sorting items by physical characteristics or, you know, just a good science lesson. I think it's kind of good for everybody.
There's so much possibility with that. Do you have a collection of any type?
Great question. To Mr. Fournier's dismay, I do collect a lot of books, but I really like to collect Russian nesting dolls. You know, the ones where it's like the big one and then they get smaller inside. I have a few sets of those. I really like them.
Yes, I think that would be a good getting to know you discussion for so many people, because maybe people have collections just like Hector that they don't talk about.
True. What do you collect, Ms. Wright?
Well, I also have the whole book issue problem. And I'm mostly pretty proud of it, but once in a while it does get to be kind of overwhelming and I need to kind of pare it down. Library problems, right?
Hashtag library problems.
Right. And speaking of problems, that brings me to my next book I wanted to share. I love this series. This is the Diamond Daniel series by Nikki Grimes, who is a poet, and she also has written a lot of children's books. And so this is, I think it's the third one. This one is called Halfway to Perfect. The first one is Make Way for Diamond Daniel. And she is such a confident character. And the stories tend to deal with her helping somebody at school who is isolated for some reason. So there's a new kid in town, or in this case, there's a girl who's kind of mean and keeps to herself and she can't figure out why. And spoiler, it turns out that she has diabetes. And so she doesn't want anybody to know. And Diamond and her friends have some questions about it. But I marked this spot because I love this little quote here. She says, "She must be lonely. I feel sorry for her." And Diamond says, "Me too. But you can't make somebody be your friend. They get to choose." So I love this idea that it explores friendships in a way that lots of us can relate to.
That's so cool. I love Nikki Grimes too. I'm a big fan of a lot of her works.
Yeah, she really gets kids, I think. I think this is about perfect for third grade, but lots and lots of readers would enjoy it, I think.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that series is a good one at Forest North too. Great choice. I was thinking too, Nikki Grimes has written a few Bluebonnet books, and the book that I wanted to share with you next is one of our Bluebonnet books this year. It's called The Bridge Home, and we actually have an ebook version of it on Mac and Via. So I was going to go over that real quick, if you don't mind.
I think that's great.
Me too. I know that your trailblazers are experts at Mac and Via, and we are getting closer to that. Here it is, over here. So Mac and Via is a ebook service where you can log in and get your book electronically. So this one's actually checked out right now, so all I could get was a preview, but this is the cover. And The Bridge Home is a book that deals with courage and friendship. You can see our two sisters right here in the middle. They end up having to run away from home. There's a lot of really terrible things going on in their home. They decide it's safer for them to leave. They run into these two boys, and the four of them sort of make their own family and end up living underneath this bridge. And it's just incredible to me, the strength they have and the heart they have to make sure they're getting what they need. The other part that I thought was super interesting to me is that the older sister has some developmental delays. So maybe sometimes she's not as quick to pick up on everything as the other kids, but she's the glue of their family that they make together. She's the strength, she's the heart of it. And she's the one that really holds them all together. So it really talks about how everybody has different strengths, everybody has different talents. And I just relate to that a lot. I also love the message that, you make your own family. You do what you need to do to make yourself happy. And this book takes place in India, but there's also an author's note that talks about how kids being homeless, honestly, this happens all over the world. And so I think that's kind of an important message for us to learn about and read about.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate that you reminded us about accessing all of our ebooks, because we have so many, and there are great ones that are in our print collections and online too.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's especially right now, like it's so easy to just get on Mac and Via right now. You don't have to wait for a curbside delivery or something being on hold. So you can just do it right now and start reading Bluebonnets. I love that.
Yes. We hope that lots of our third, fourth, and fifth graders are going to find some of those Bluebonnets they really love reading.
I agree.
I got a third book, and this one is called Song for a Whale. It's new. I just read it this summer. It's written by Lynn Kelly, and this book should not work. It has too many things going on in this story, but it totally does work, and I really like it. So I'm going to try and describe it, but I'm not going to cover all the things because there's just so much in the plot, and yet it ties together. So the main character is deaf, and she goes to a school where most of the students are hearing, and her grandmother is also deaf. And at school, she doesn't really participate very much. And sometimes the teachers and the other students talk to her like she's not very smart because she can't hear, which of course is not the same at all. But it's frustrating, and she's kind of isolated. But in science class, she learns about a whale who makes sounds at a different frequency than all the other whales. And the story was based on that's actually true. There was a whale discovered who did that. And so she's so inspired by this, and she wants to help the whale communicate. So she starts this whole research process of how can I help that whale get in contact with other whales and communicate and sort of join into the family. So, and she also has a friend who is deaf who goes to a school with other deaf students. And so she feels like she's sort of walking her own path. Like she doesn't do sign language well enough to talk with his friends, but she doesn't read lips well enough to keep up with everybody at her school. So like this whale, she is really walking between two worlds. So it's a fascinating story about what's worthwhile and how you find your way and whether you're going to bother to connect with people. It just has so much good. And I think that we all know what it's like to feel isolated and that nobody can hear us. So I love this message. It just tugs at my heart.
Man, that cover art too is just stunningly beautiful.
I think so too. It's so original, and it's just not like anything I've read before, and I'm always happy to discover a book that does that.
I agree. Would you say that it's realistic all the way through, or is that
Yes.
would be okay? Beautiful. The front cover almost looks magical. Like I was almost expecting.
It does. It sort of has a fantasy kind of feel to it.
Cool. That one looks good. I got to read that one. I need to add that to my list on
Yes.
catalog. All right, great. Well, Ms. Wright, always such a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing those books with me today. And thanks for letting me talk about ours. And we hope that all of our viewers out there keep looking at Mac and Via, keep looking at our online catalog, reach out to us if there's anything we can do for you. And until next time, this has been Book Buzz. We'll see you later.